Welcome to another episode of The Social Show. My name is Ruth Yolana. With 2020 being the year that it was, I don't think I need to dive into what I mean by that. Social investment was hit with a number of big changes, and some have left a permanent residue that will require an increase in sustainable impact for 2021 and so much more. And no one knows more about that than my guest today, Kerry Lee Pascal, the Executive Trustee at Social Impact Initiative Nation Builder. Good day, Kerry, and thank you so much for your time today.
Hi, it's lovely to be with you today.
So, you recently wrote an opinion piece that we actually published on Social TV. If anyone wants to read it, you can just go on our platform after this interview. But I think the gist of the piece was that sustainability is key for social investment for 2021. Can you please give us sort of an umbrella understanding of what that means from a nation builder perspective?
Absolutely. I think sustainability has been a buzzword for many, many years. And each different season we see brings a different approach to what people think the sort of golden calf or the perfect utopia of sustainability is. So the last little while, we've seen a lot of push around self-generated income when it comes to sustainability. So people have looked quite severely at how do they generate an income themselves so as not only to rely on donor funds. And that has been amazing. But when we had our level 5 lockdown, it was really interesting to see how those organizations were actually some of the hardest hit, because some of them were actually totally shooting the lights out and generating 90% of the income, and suddenly that dried up overnight. And so the key to sustainability is really about diversified income streams. That self-generated income is good. There's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely a key priority. So are your small donations or small contributions from individuals in the public. Those are actually amazing if you can get enough of those, because if one falls away, it doesn't have a massive impact on your organization. So that's really helpful. But then you also want your bigger donors. You want international funding, local funding, philanthropic funding, CSI funding, because they all have very different approaches and come under pressure at different times. So the key is multiple income streams, but most not-for-profits would now say to you, well, our income streams pretty much across the board are drying up at the moment, and they're all impacted.
That was actually going to be my next question. Sorry to cut you.
No, go for it.
Yes, the things that, myself included, I think everybody sort of looked at 2020, with the idea that we need more income streams. But like you said, they're running dry currently. And for NGOs, I'm sure it's even worse because, especially in this country, because more than often, they just have one real stream. So how does a NGO sort of set up that kind of mentality in a time sort of like this?
So we've definitely seen income streams impacted, just as you're saying. When it comes to our corporate social investment partners, so our corporates, a lot of them have either frozen their funding or have put a cap on their funding, or in some situations have actually closed their social investment departments. And some of the entities have actually fully just closed because the businesses have gone under. So definitely a huge impact on the business community, which has a direct impact on the not-for-profit community. And so what we're seeing a lot of is collaboration. And so there's a lot more. I think 2020 was a catalyst for collaboration, and people were wondering if this sort of collaborative spirit would carry on into 2021. And I think it's going to be key for the next 5, maybe even 5 to 10 years. It's going to be a key role player within the development sector. Is people are starting to collaborate more and share resources more and leverage of one another's strengths and skill sets and minimize duplication so that the funding that is available can go as far as possible. Because our needs are growing and our funding's decreasing. So the only thing we can do is be wiser with our resources. And how do we do that? By working together and leveraging off one another
100%.
as much as possible.
Yeah, no, 100%. In fact, talking about collaborating, when you think about collaboration, and you've been in the social investment space, I'm sure, for quite a while, you sort of automatically think of a vertical collaboration. You don't necessarily think of, like you mentioned in your piece, vertical, more sort of horizontal mergers or collaborations, seeing people or NGOs share infrastructure and resources, like you just said. How easy is it to set up something sort of like that for an NGO right now in 2021, where you find that we can't even meet, we can't even share space in general? How do you see that sort of really translating in the way that you sort of put it?
So I think it's on multiple levels. So from a donor community or an investment community, I think there's a lot of horizontal collaboration that can take place where people start looking at, I fund high school education and you fund primary school education and you are funding tertiary school education. So how do we form pipelines so that we are ensuring that there are sort of sustainable journeys that people are going on, because we know that our funds can't actually do the entire sort of school journey anymore. Or so those kinds of partnerships, and those, a lot of people already know one another in the space and have some form of relationship already. It's just actually starting to chat through where are there synergies and where can we take hands to make sure that we are supporting one another more in the season. Similarly with the not-for-profits, so it's not unusual for not-for-profits to know what one another's doing and to partner with each other. And so I think it's just upping that ante and really looking for those places where there's synergies. Everybody's needed to innovate. Everybody's taken on all sorts of things that aren't their skills. A lot of people have had sort of to become health experts almost and start doing COVID tests and all sorts of things that aren't part of their sort of skill sets. And so now once the crisis phase has sort of died down a little bit, not that we're in any way out of the pandemic, but now we've seen it. We've been through a season of it. We've been through 11 months or 10 months of it. And so people are now starting to regroup and go, okay, so your strength is that, so we can point people to you for that. And our strength is this, so we can point people, like you can point people to us. So it's really about people almost settling again, regrouping, figuring out what their core is again, because you kind of just picked up whatever. You rolled up your sleeves and you dived in and you got your hands dirty and whatever was needed. And it's sort of finding your space again, but then also looking for people that, and you know each other in the industry, finding one another, building on that trust. And then I think the tricky part is getting the investor community and the implementing community to align in when it comes to reporting and impact and those sorts of things, where people aren't trying to showcase that they're getting the best impact, but you're actually starting to do consolidated reports and going, this is the impact that this collective of not-for-profits is having. So that could be an interesting shift that we see in the industry going forward.
100%. I think it's quite tricky. In fact, that was going to be my next question around measurement. You spoke a little bit about measurement in your piece, and it's always been quite a tricky ideal for a lot of NGOs to measure their impact. But you have said that the more focus will be necessary in the coming year. And maybe you can just expand on this, because you kind of led us into that impact, impact measurement idea for donors and big corporates who are sort of confused as to how to manage this crisis.
Yeah. So I think what's happening is because the resources are much lower than they used to be and the need is much higher, everybody is going, how do we ensure that we are getting the most impact out of every investment that we make, out of every action that we do as an implementer? How do we ensure that we are truly having maximum impact in what we're doing? And the only way we can figure that out is by measuring our impact. So that is why impact measurement is obviously going to be a bigger focus going forward. But the trouble with impact measurement at the moment is that everybody is measuring in a totally different way and reporting on it in a totally different way. So it's quite hard to, even within your own program, sometimes it's quite hard to determine which programs are actually having greater impact than other programs, and which ones you should possibly not do and rather partner with someone, and which ones you should do and get other people to actually feed into your program. Same from the investor community. How do you know who's having the most impact when you're looking for people to partner with? And so over the last 2 years, we've actually been on a journey with over 95 not-for-profits and corporates that have, within the Nation Builder community, have come together and spent hours figuring out how to standardize the way that people report. So it's the first step in sort of trying to help us compare and see what's happening in the landscape by having similarities in the way that we are reporting. And so the first step is just reporting in the same manner. And so that is what is actually going to be launched now in March, is the impact management reporting guidelines that the Nation Builder community put together.
Okay, tell us more about that. Tell us more about the launch and how NGOs can get involved, or perhaps is it going to be a virtual event? Because I know I'm sure a lot of them would love to find out a little bit more about the standardized idea, given that we are in, the middle of nowhere when it comes to what procedures to go forward with in 2020.
So it is going to be towards the end of March, on the 25th of March, and it will be a virtual launch. So we don't predict that we'll be able to be in person yet. So a virtual event, and we'll have some speakers. People will be able to join virtually. We'll be able to register for the event, and we'll have some amazing speakers. We'll present sort of the impact management outlines and guidelines. It'll be available on the website. It'll go live that day so that people then can download it and have a look at it and process it. But then 2 months later, we'll be starting impact management masterclasses. So sometimes reading the theory is wonderful, but if you haven't gone on a journey of implementing it, putting it into practice, it sometimes is a little bit harder to get into your organization. So we're starting to run masterclasses from May, and then people could sign up for those masterclasses, and that'll help you figure out how to start actually bringing the standard into the reporting of your organization. And from an investor perspective, how do you align this with what you require as a corporate or as an investor, so that you can put a lot of these standards into the way that you require reporting from your implementers. And the great thing is, the pie in the sky dream is that we can really start reducing some of the reporting workload, because your implementing organizations spend so much time putting exactly the same information into multiple different report templates. So if we can have similarities, and yes, there'll be things that people require that others don't, but if we can be a lot more similar in the way that we require reporting, I think we'll free up a lot of capacity within the implementing community.
Absolutely agree. And I think implementing obviously is one of the most important parts of understanding how this industry is going to grow and move forward. Thank you so much for your time today, Kerry. It's been amazing talking to you, and I'm sure a lot of our audience is going to be looking forward to the seminars and the master classes coming forward. Is there anywhere they need to go to find out more about them?
Absolutely. So if you'd like to find out more about our masterclasses, you're welcome to email us on No, it's not that, sorry. You can email us on nationbuilder@mergon.co.za. Or alternatively, keep an eye out, follow our Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn. Twitter, we're Build SA. On Facebook, we are Proud Nation Builder. And on LinkedIn, we are Nation Builder. And on Instagram, we're Nation Builder. So on any of those platforms, we will be announcing it. And so just follow us, and we'll keep you up to date.
Just look for Nation Builder, says my guest, Kerry Lee Pascal, Executive Trustee at the Social Impact Initiative Nation Builder. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
For more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za. Subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on our social mediums.